Love it. Okay, so I have just a few seconds, really, of kind of overview stuff that I wanted to go over with you guys real quick before we get started, and then I'll hand it over to Corey, and he can kind of go from there. So, have you guys seen this thing yet? I don't know if you did or didn't get a chance to see this agenda. And here's sign-in sheet. I'll just pass it around for you. Okay. Can you click me? Sweet. Okay, so real quick, guys, when we're training, one of the important pieces, and most of us know each other, but real quick, let's run around the room so that Corey understands who is in the room, what you guys are trying to get out of the training this week and next week and for the next 12 weeks, really, on this agenda. And with a little bit of background, right? So like, what's your name? We know what department you guys are in, right? Everybody's in facilities, but a little bit about how long you've been doing this and kind of what your background is, because that'll help us understand who's in the room a little bit, right? So I'm Joe Lewandowski. I'm the senior project manager with McCarthy. I've been doing this for 15 years. My specialty is probably this, right? Facilitating. I am not your resident expert in your energy management system or your mechanical systems or electrical systems, right? You know them, I put them together, I manage the work to make sure that stuff goes in right. But really, this is the benefit I can bring to you, is facilitating this training and making sure that you guys get the information that you need to be able to do your job, right? So we're gonna go through a bunch of stuff today. If you guys have follow-up questions, the feedback piece is gonna be super important at the end, right? I have some forms, if you write on them, like some questions that maybe we didn't get answered today, that's my job, is to follow up, make sure that stuff gets answered for you. So what I would like to get out of the training today is an understanding of what you guys are looking for, right? Some feedback and some interaction as we go through this thing. Feel free to speak up, right? It's gonna be super boring if we just watch Corey click through the screens for an hour and a half, right? So speak up. If you didn't follow something, stop us, we'll go back, we'll hit it. There is no time limit here, right? We have 90 minutes today. If we don't get all the way through the agenda, we'll just pick it up again next week when we schedule the follow-up session. So can we just go around the room real quick? Josh, I guess we'll just start with you.
Josh, wear many hats, but I'm over this department, construction, and many other things. So been here since day one, 2009.
Yeah, since the facility originally opened in 2009. Robbie?
Robbie Terman, worked with facilities, been here 10 years. I don't really have a specialty, jack of all, work on everything in the building. I would like to just get some understanding on how you work the system. I mean, it's totally different than what we have now. And right now we can go on the front end and change settings and don't have to program anything. And I'm just trying to get a basic understanding on how you make this system work.
I'm out. So everybody in this room covers call coverage, right? So even if they're not specialized in the mechanical field or whatever, we have weekend rotational calls where there's issues or instances where things come up. And so they have to be prepared, at least at an entry level, to respond to those needs of the organization. Be it, my room's too hot, my room's too cold.
Yeah.
I turned the thermostat up 45 minutes ago and it's not warming. You know, we all need that basic information out of this at minimum.
Yeah, and I think as we go through this, and I've got some information here, and we've got more to develop as we go. Because part of today is understanding what it is exactly that you need to know. I think we're going to spend a little time saying, what are your 5 most common calls? And then what do you do in this system when you get that call? So that you guys know exactly what to do when you get the call, where to click, what to do, what to look at, how to fix the issue, right? That's the whole point. Good stuff, Robbie. And this is a different system, right? You guys know how these building management systems generally work. I think everybody generally has some experience with one or another. This one is automated logic. It's a little bit different. It's similar, like, you know, you get all these different softwares, but they all do about the same thing, just in the littlest annoying way, right? The difference of how they work. But they generally all have the same functionality, and we'll talk through all that stuff for you. Cool. What do you got, Brian?
Brian Hughes, facilities supervisor, been here for 4 years, and same as Robbie, I won't have a general knowledge of how the system works, so I can help those of us that, like myself and him and some of the other guys, don't really have the experience and knowledge in this type of system, so I just want
Yeah.
to know it.
Today will be great for that. We're gonna go over general, right? How do you log in? What do you click on? Where do you see things? How is it set up, and how is the system architecture set up so you can see it? And then as we go through these different systems, you guys will have very specific questions that we can answer for you. So just keep that in mind. Spit them out. I'm writing them down, right? Because again, that's my job, is to make sure that you guys get the answers to your questions. Mitch, what do you got?
Mitchell Payne, operations engineer. Robbie and Brian pretty much covered just better understanding the system, how it works,
Yeah,
how to go through it, find more stuff.
cool. Yeah.
Example, Mitch was here Friday night, cooling tower was in hand, right? Blew the fittings apart on the return lines coming into the tower.
Yeah.
Wasn't exactly sure how to rotate the towers.
Yeah.
Rotated to the second tower, same thing happened. Didn't necessarily know that the entire system was in hand. That would have been nice to know, right?
Yeah, right.
We could have backed some of that return down to keep from blowing the fittings apart. So, prime example there, Friday night, 9
It
o'clock.
turned out being pretty easy to switch towers and stuff, but just,
Right.
you know,
Gotta
getting
know
into it's
how.
like,
Yeah, in a crunch,
yeah.
when it looks like the great storm out in the ER parking lot,
Right.
perfect storm. You know, have a bit of a panic moment there.
Yeah, for sure, understandably, right?
Yeah.
So this EMS training is gonna be a little bit different than most of the other training will do. Just in the sense that because this system is so customizable, there's a series of alarms you guys want and don't want. There's a series of things that are programmed into the system to happen now that you might want to happen differently that speak up here, right? And if they're easy to take care of, Corey will do them. Right? If they're more difficult, we'll get back to you. We'll figure out if there's a solution for that kind of stuff. But like those specific examples are what we're here to help you with, right? The more specific and relevant we can make this training for you, the better. So we call it training. It's also just kind of like review of what we've put together. And if you don't like it, tell us and we'll start changing it, right? Scott?
Scott Simmons, been doing this for about 35 years. And just gotta I wanna figure out how to make changes on this thing, because it's different than anything I've worked on, and
Okay.
everything I worked on been pretty simple, and this
Yeah.
here, it'll be simple if ever figured out.
Yeah, if you can
But I
control
wanna
it,
change the airflow,
what do I push?
when it says airflow 150 CFM, I wanna change that.
Yeah.
I wanna figure out how to get it changed,
Operator override.
User override, right?
Yeah.
and where to do it at.
Cool.
Mike West, I've only been here 3 months.
Facilities, Robbie.
Okay, welcome. Were you at a previous facility? Where'd you come from in your background? Do you have any experience with this stuff?
I'm in the field of construction.
Got it. Cool. You know the stuff I know then. More than I know probably. Javier, I know where you came from.
Yeah, Javier Cabral, electrician.
They're in your break room.
Been here about 7 months.
They're in the break room.
I just want to know how to use the system.
Yeah.
Your break room.
And like Josh said, when you guys are the only ones here and you get a call, what is the minimum stuff you need to know to go in there and fix it, right? Track it down and make sure that it gets done right.
Spencer Sullivan,
Mike, call you.
BTME, just here to kind of inspect, make sure that McCarthy, vouching for you guys, just kind of seeing how this goes along.
Cool.
Call and check with
We
Sam.
value your input, so
6501.
please don't chat. Corey, last but not least.
Corey Nichols, I'm with ES2. I've been with ES2 for 8 years and in the controls industry for 20 plus years, somewhere in there. So I'm here to answer questions.
Cool.
Hopefully
Okay.
make it simple.
Yeah, very good. Corey, click me through here a little bit. I got a couple slides. I just want to go over the overview, right? So today we've got 90 minutes, more like 60 now. Quick introductions, what we just did. EMS training program overview. So I want to go through this sheet that you've got in front of you because we have put together like a 12-week program. I know you guys are tough to schedule, right? Right now we've got you on swing shifts, so some of you are staying late, some of you come in early for this thing. That's a little bit tricky. I know there's going to be phone calls and people are going to get yanked out of here at one point or another. It's okay. Did you pass this out to these guys ahead of time or no?
Nope.
Okay, cool. So it's probably worth us reading through it and then maybe not necessarily here on the fly, but maybe the next day or two, give us a little feedback. Say, hey, we want 2 days on this topic and like half a day on this topic. We don't need to spend all this time doing this stuff. Totally adjustable as we go. right? We really want to make sure that we hit the topics that are most important to you. We've broken down the system generally from a large standpoint, right? From like system overview down to smaller and smaller systems as we go, right? So that you'll understand the sequence of operations and how they're programmed into each of the pieces of equipment, but then also like how the systems are operating together and what to do with the alarms and general stuff like that. Corey's going to go through the EMS system overview, a couple housekeeping items, question and answer, right? As you guys are thinking of stuff, just jot it down, right? We'll hit it at the end. Make sure I don't leave here without getting all your questions. May not have all the answers today, but we'll make sure that we get them for you. And then there's an evaluation here at the end that I'll hand out now. You guys can look at it as you go. And it's just, this is important, right? What's important about it is these last two questions on here that say, hey, what was useful to you so that we can give you more of that? And what would you change about this training so that we can change it? This one, again, is a little bit unique because it's 12 weeks long. So we have time that if you guys want us to adjust the way that we're doing this in general, we can do it for you.
Be
okay?
blatantly honest.
Yeah, that's right. Tell us if it's useful or not, right?
If it's all junk or if you're getting anything out of it.
That's right.
Right?
Yep, absolutely. Next. Okay, so here's the objectives for today. Understand the audience, gather some feedback on the topics and the depth of the knowledge, understand the basic navigation, and then we want to review next week's agenda, right? Because we've said it, but we haven't reviewed it with you, so if we want to tweak it, we just want to go through that real quick before we break today. Next one, Corey. These are the goals overall of the program. So now we're talking about this sheet, right? And here's the goals, is to provide the operations personnel with information and training needed to maintain and operate the facility, right? So that goes for any training we do, but particularly and most importantly with this training. So what we want to do is emphasize any exclusionary or temporary conditions, right? As you know, like not everything is 100% dialed in. We're still out there speaking stuff. We've got pumps in hand at times. We need to make sure that you know that as we go through this. So partially training, right? And partially informative and partially like, here's where we are. And so that you all know, right? You know where we're at. So I want to make sure that you understand.
Emphasize on that. Give us a brief overview of where we are today. Like for instance, from completion. That way the guys kind of know what we're up against, right? So we're working with a system that's not fully implemented. That changes kind of our day-to-day operations, right? What does that change? What does that tweak? What happens if I move some things around? Those types of things are the things that you guys should be thinking about. But and then kind of when we expect to say put the red ribbon on it and hand over the baby.
Yeah, so from an overall perspective, and this is going to be more general than you want, but generally speaking, right, the work is done. The balancers have been through. The only system that they haven't fully balanced is AHU 3, which they're finishing like today. So once those things are done and set, then we can start tweaking airflows, right? We can get more air in those nurses stations that are a problem. We can start looking at well, that's when the calls are starting to come in, right? And then we're having to go tweak some stuff. The central plant is having some issues just with when the power drops, it coming back online at the moment. So the system is operational, it's working in automatic, but there is some tweaks there that we're working with, right? Some problems that we're still troubleshooting. Corey, you may be able to add to that list.
Yeah, really the plant is the only thing that we've got running in hand, so we do have a lot of things locked on the plant because of that, for two reasons. One, it's partially the power part of it, and the other is because of the power, we've got to get in there and make sure the timing sequences are okay. So when you do rotate, we don't cause problems somewhere else. So one of us is going to, either Michael or myself will sit in the plant and go through, rotate through everything, make sure it functions.
And the second part of your question is the timeline on being done. The goal is the end of the week. Like chilled water, hot water balancing is happening right now. The air side should be done today. Should be by the end of the week, maybe middle of next week.
So with that said, if we're finding valves that are closed, you should know about it because you're balancing a building with valves that are closed, right? Yeah. So we just did that day or so ago, Scott.
Yes,
we found
yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. We should definitely know about it.
Okay.
Second is gather feedback, right, on any additional training that may be desired or needed. So as we go through this thing, keep telling us what you need, right? We don't want you to leave here unprepared for your job because you now have 250,000 square feet of space that have people in them that will complain at you, right? And we want to make sure that you're able to Avoid those first and foremost, and then address them as they come. Review sample workflows and focus on the real life situations and efficient use of the system. So that's what we're talking about. You guys got to help us with, hey, what are the calls you get, right? Hey, I'm hot, hey, I'm cold. We know those two, right? Beyond that, what are the most typical ones that you see that we should make sure that we address as we go through this? They'll pop into your mind. If there's any out there, yell them out at me now.
No airflow.
Airflow, right? So low airflow.
Or low or no airflow.
Yeah.
Too hot, too colds every day.
Right. What else? What else do you get? Do you get hot water stuff? Water's not getting hot. It's working pretty good in this building. I mean, actually, hot water system's pretty good.
We hadn't had any calls on that.
Okay.
Not on the new building.
What do you get in the middle of the night, Mitch? What's your most common one?
Well, we've been having a lot of rooms too cold, rooms too hot.
Yeah.
Get a couple, how do you work with thermostats?
Yeah.
Because the nurses, they don't understand it.
Yep.
That's one thing we want to do is simply remove the outside air conditions from the thermostat.
Yeah, I've got to go through and do that.
It's confusing.
We do have a ton of thermostats that go into unoccupied. I mean, we're open 24/7 and we got thermostats dropping out going into unoccupied. And you turn the thermostat up to +4 and it doesn't go out unoccupied. You turn it down to -4, it doesn't go out unoccupied. And then all of a sudden, by its own, an hour and a half later, it goes out unoccupied.
So where are you seeing unoccupied zones?
ER. Yeah. And when I pulled it up, it shows that it is to go into unoccupied at midnight.
Got it. Which is probably a default.
And there was also something, as we're changing seasons here, the heating water valves at the VAVs would not open unless it was below 65 degrees ambient exterior.
Right. That is probably a sequence of operation thing that we'll have to look at.
Okay.
We'll check that one. Because we don't want that to happen.
We don't care. Here's the deal. I mean, just eyes wide open. Patient rooms have full control of their thermostat. I don't care if it's August and they want heat.
Yep.
They get heat, right? So for patient care areas, 100% full control with tight parameters, because that's our primary focus here, is patient comfort. Y'all have to help me understand deadbands and what that means.
Yep.
Because I personally still don't understand it.
Yep.
Scott has tried to teach me, but I don't pick it up very well. So
Specifically how each, we have several, 24 different, I think, VAV control sequences throughout the building, one of them being patient rooms. We'll go through how that programming is put together and how they're controlled and how you can tweak them.
Okay.
Each one, yeah, that's day 1, I think, or 2. Okay. Keep me going, Corey. If you don't, I'll talk forever.
Okay.
Cool. 12 weeks, 90 minutes, 2 times a week. We only scheduled this one. We'll talk at the end of the day, hey, what makes sense for next week? I know that's going to be a little flexible, and we'll work with you however that needs to work in the next few weeks. So let us know if this is going to work or not. If it's too long, if it's too short, whatever we want to do, we're happy to do that. And then the topics, the depth that we're going into on these topics, you got to let us know if this is what you want to see. So let me real quick run through the 12, right? So today we're going to do kind of navigation stuff. How do you log on? How do you navigate the trees, navigate the system, get familiar with what's going on there? Colors and set points, right? We were talking a lot about that. Do we want the colors? Do we not want the colors? Great venue to be talking about that. Corey's the guy to help. Day 2 is system overview and navigation part 2, right? So we're going to talk about working with equipment. The graphics pages, we'll go through each one. Which systems have graphics? Which piece of equipment themselves have graphics? How do they all lay out? Is everything that you want on those graphics, the links from those graphics on there? Properties pages, logic pages, set points, trends, alarms, and time lapse, right? So we'll kind of go through how to use the system and the capabilities of the output from the system next time we meet. And then we're going down to room level systems, right? So this room level is a 3-part thing, right? So I've got it at the bottom, Thursday 6-4, going through review of the VAV types and the sequences. Josh, that's what we were just talking about with patient rooms. Part 2 would then be a review. Well, every day we're going to review the previous session. And then we're gonna hit critical areas, right? So how are the ORs, how are the cath labs, how are the pharmacy, how are the isolation rooms, right? Those specific rooms and sequences, how are they set up, what do they do, and how do you use them, right? The third piece of that is kind of the rest of the miscellaneous heating and cooling stuff, right? VCUs, FCUs, crack units, radiant heat panels. We have radiant heat panels in the patient rooms on level 6. We have them in the main lobby on level 1. So we gotta make sure that you guys understand how those are intertied with the air systems that are in there and when they're gonna come on and go off. Major equipment's the next big chunk, right? 3 parts to that too. So we broke them up, starting with AHU 2 because that's Oklahoma Heart Hospital's floor. It's currently occupied. We better get you there first. And then AHU 1A, 1B, which is surgery, which will get the most calls usually. And then day 2, we'll talk through the rest of them, right? So 1.4, 3, 5, and 6 will be pretty typical. There's a couple isolation rooms on 6, but they'll be pretty similar. And then 7 and 8 are those 2 units that just feed that UPS room. So not a ton to talk about there from an EMS standpoint, but I think we can cover all of those things in a 90-minute session because there's not too many differences between them. Part 3 then is the plant, right? We spent a whole day going through all of the plant, how everything is tied together and all the sequences. So feel free to move some of this stuff up and back, right? If you guys want to talk about this, or Josh, shoot me an email after you huddle with these guys, let me know what you want to do, right? Because I know that plan is critical. So if we want to move that up in the sequence, we can. We just kind of formed it to like start at the top and work our way down to the nitty gritty here.
So now that we're occupying the building and we're in training at the same time, be thinking about operationally what's important, right? So the training schedule is one thing, but is there things on this that you don't want to wait 12 weeks to figure out? We need to move those to week 3 or 4 or 2 or what? Let's look at it from that perspective, you know?
Or if you want to hit all these things like 4 days a week, we're happy to do that too. I mean, we're flexible as you guys are, right? We're trying to be respectful of your time. I know you got a building to run here too. So if it makes sense, we can get 3 of these in a week or 4 of these in a week. We're happy to do that for you if you want it quicker, right? So just again, let us know as we go. And then miscellaneous monitoring systems. So that's exhaust systems, other monitoring systems, anything that we're keeping tabs on. We want to look at that piece. Garage and metering. So that's electrical, natural gas. The dashboards we'll look at that point, right? The stuff that's on that dashboard sequence in the EMS, and then hardware, right? So this is where we'll get into some of the these are the parts and pieces, right? This is what you need to know. This is where you go if you need to replace a board, right? This is the document that you need to say, okay, I need that. What's the part number, right? So we'll give you all that stuff so you can make sure that you know where to go to find the parts and pieces that you need. If you stick your head above the ceiling or in one of those panels, you'll know what you're looking at. Because it's going to look different from Johnson Controls, for sure. So that's the overview, okay? So it's totally understandable you might not have feedback immediately, right? You guys probably want to talk about it, that's okay. Just let us know. We can be totally flexible, like I said. Did I miss anything huge? Is there a big gaping hole there somewhere that I didn't cover? Okay, so we're going to move forward that way until you guys tell me otherwise, and let us know. Cool. So at the end of the day, feedback's super important, right? Please. Josh said be brutally honest, and please do. You're not gonna hurt my feelings, right? If we are not giving you what you need, we need to make sure that we do it again and we get you the information that you need to be able to monitor your building. One more, Corey. So BTMD wants us to record this training, so we are. I don't know if you'll use it or not. Just be mindful of the camera as you're moving and sitting and where you're doing stuff and cursing and whatnot. It's all on video. But you get them, so I don't know what you want to do with that afterwards. And then there's a sign-in sheet going around, just kind of record of attendance. So that's that. Good. Corey, now I'll hand it over to you. You can switch off of that thing and off we go.
Great work, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna try and figure out how to do this, because I don't like to stand behind you and talk, so I'll probably just kind of move back and forth. Yeah. Unless you can drive. You want to drive?
I can do it.
You want me to?
Yeah, go for it.
I can do it.
So why don't you go ahead and log out for me? Log out's in the top right corner. I'll end up having to log back to it. But who has or hasn't logged into the system yet? He has not logged in. You have not, so I think you were the only one I didn't see a user for. Everybody else had users.
I'm having trouble logging in.
Okay.
Pretty sure I put in the same password as I did on everything else, but I can't seem to get logged in.
I don't know how to do that yet.
Spell your name or log in.
Kick him out.
Keep changing his password, don't you?
I don't know if you're gonna ask IT department to create a URL for you, or if you're just gonna continue to navigate to this IP address. This is the IP address where the server resides, and so it's at 10.20.135.4. And I'm sure if you ask IT, you would give that a name, like web control or something. Okay, so when you navigate, it is a web-based system. It's just using an internet browser. You're going out and hitting this computer and logging into the system. So go ahead and hit login for me. And I guess Josh will be managing users from this point. At some point, you'll be managing.
Josh and Brian.
All right, so if you forget your password, they can reset it. They can put it in as a temporary password, 12345, and force you to change it the next time you log in. That way, nobody has to know whose password is what. Okay. So as soon as you log in, you have a choice in your own personal settings. Here we go. Go to configure. Let me figure out how to do this from both sides. So these are my settings, and you do have a choice as to where you start when you log into the system. So mine right now just starts at the top of Oklahoma Heart Hospital. But if you want to log in and always see the metering dashboard, you can navigate through this menu where the mouse is and find specifically where you want to start at. So if you want to start at dashboards, that's fine. You accept that the next time you log in, and every time from this point out, when you log in, that's where you're going to start. If you want to see the plant, you can set that as your starting location. Okay. If you notice, when he clicked on dashboards, it came up at the top and it asked if you wanted to accept or cancel that. Okay. So before anything is committed to a change in the server, you have to make that selection to accept or cancel. Sometimes you'll see it up there, it'll show accept, cancel, or apply. So accept means you accept the change, you take responsibility for it. Cancel means nothing's been changed, you just drop back out of it. What apply means is it's going to apply the change you made, but leave you on the screen you're on. So if it's a pop-up screen that you made a change on, then you're going to get a third button, apply.
Where does apply show?
So if you have a pop-up, so when we start doing like VAVs and we're looking at airflows,
Right.
you're going to get a little pop-up window where you actually make your changes. Okay, this is also where you, if you need to, you can change your passwords, and you have the ability to change your password. And I haven't been told if there are any password policies that you have in place where you have to do them every 90 days or something like that.
There is for our local intranet, but
Usually for this system, it's secure enough behind all your firewalls that they're not going to get there. So that's between you and IT, but it can be done. You can require a certain complexity as well as a number of days to renew licenses for passwords. Okay, so go ahead and cancel that. And go back to the geographic tree. And we're just going to go through the different trees and buttons. Probably is about all we're going to make it through today. Just so you can learn to navigate through the system. So, this globe here is the geographic tree. And essentially, it's a list of links to all the equipment that's in your system. The geographic tree is where I try to do my best to represent your building the way you view it. In other words, what I'm saying is, if all your VAVs on the first floor, I look at those as an area of the building. Makes sense. And if I move over into the ORs, that's another area on the first floor. So I try to represent everything by the way it's laid out in the building. The next tree over, it looks like a bunch of monitors. That is the network tree. And the network tree has to represent how I physically wired the controllers together throughout the building. So I always give an example, if I started on the first floor VAV1 and went up to the second floor, third floor, and fourth floor with a wire, that's how it has to look in this geographic tree. But I represented over in the other tree how it actually exists in the building. Does that make sense? So there are two trees, they have two different purposes. You're probably gonna be spending 99% of your time in that geographic tree because that's where you're at, is in the building. Troubleshooting needs to take place over in the communication troubleshooting takes place over in the networking tree. You will, however, see if things need to be downloaded. So right now there are things that are being changed and adjusted. Downloads are programs that I've actually physically changed the program and I need to send it to a controller. So that's over in the network tree. And if I wanted to download those controllers, I could go ahead and do it. So some of those are your outside air temperature changes that I needed to make. Okay. All right. The next tab over is, I'm going to just go through the trees first. This is a scheduled group tab. You probably will not, on 99% of your equipment, be scheduling it. Since it's a hospital, it's always on. But if you do have some areas like conference rooms that you do want to put schedules in, scheduled groups allows you to group together pieces of equipment for a schedule. So if I have a conference room and across the hall I have a bathroom, that bathroom's never used except when the conference room is, then we can group those two pieces of equipment together in a schedule and make one schedule that you have to adjust instead of two. The last tab there is system configuration. System configuration is exactly that. It is the system. So you have your settings, but then you go ahead and click on system settings. And these are things that are server level. This is where I spend most of my time. How information is stored on the server, where the server exists on your network, what the security levels are, communication, scheduling tasks, daylight savings. So these are all server level changes or configurations. So a lot of you won't even have anything here except my settings, the very top one. Any questions so far about the different trees? Let's go back to the geographic tree. So the tree is the white space on the left. In the middle, that big black area, we call the action pane. It's where all the action takes place. And then across the top of the action pane are action buttons. So the buttons apply to the area where we're at. So we have a graphics button. We can do schedules. Go ahead and click on schedules. Okay. So the schedules right now are 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days. It's just always on, it's continuous. You notice when we clicked on the schedules button, we got 3 tabs under that. So we had a view tab, a configure tab, and a reports tab. And these tabs change depending on what action button you've selected. It kind of makes sense. We can view the schedule. We can click on the configure tab and we can configure schedules for our system. And then we can run reports on that schedule. Schedules and alarms both are hierarchical. What I mean by that is when we're looking at schedules, and we're clicked on Oklahoma Heart Hospital, that applies to every piece of equipment below it. Same thing with alarms. If you clicked at the hospital, Oklahoma Heart, we're seeing all the alarms, whether it's Super West, the garage, or the emergency room, emergency department. If we click on a specific VAV, in this case it clicked on 101, now we're seeing only alarms that apply from that piece of equipment. If you click up to first floor area A, now we're seeing all the alarms for first floor area A. All right, so this alarm page can be viewed in several ways. The way I prefer to do it is by date. If I view it by date, then they're in chronological order as they were received. Okay. So as a new alarm comes in, it gets dropped in at the top. This page contains 50 alarms. And then if we go up to the top, you see that there are some forward and back buttons. So we can go back 50 at a time, or we can jump to the double arrow on the far end and go back to the first reported alarm that's still left in the system.
How long do those remain?
So they actually remain, I'll have to double check. I think right now I've just got them remaining 7 days after they've been acknowledged and returned to normal. So two things have to happen for them to get deleted out. Somebody has to acknowledge that there was an alarm, and that alarm has to return to a normal state. That either means you go and fix it to return it to a normal state, or if you say had something like a discharge air temperature was high here, and it returns to normal when the heating valve closes, then it'll acknowledge it will return to normal. And the text would go from red acknowledge to just a black acknowledge. So red means it's still actively an alarm. Black means it's no longer an alarm. Once you acknowledge it, it'll stay in the system for 7 days and it'll be automatically deleted.
And red, only on this report will it be red, not on the graphic, correct? Like for instance, we're seeing waiting for normal. Are you saying?
Yeah, so on this graphic, yeah, that waiting for normal means that somebody acknowledged it and it's waiting to return to normal.
Okay.
So it's still an alarm.
So if it's red here, then it's an
Okay.
alarm.
Those are icons on the left. These are the category that the alarm is in. So this is a critical HVAC alarm. These are fault detection, comfort alarms. So these icons are just mean there are different types of alarms in the system. This is an HVAC general. Click on one of these alarms. Any one of them, yeah. When it expands out, this is a category HVAC general. It's got a gray fan. HVAC critical, if we expand it. Yeah. This is an HVAC critical. When you expand it, you get another piece of information that's helpful. It actually creates a hyperlink to that. So you can click on that exhaust fan 19 and it will take you there in the system so that you can see what that was or what that alarm was. Okay. If you want to go back to where we were, you can actually hit this back button and it'll take you back to the previous screen. So this is to show alarms by date. Drop that down and let's do it by incident group. I had never used this one before, but I actually kind of like it because what it does is group together the two alarms. I should say the alarm and the return to normal. So at 2:45 in 10 seconds, the discharge air temperature was too warm on ST106, and 35 seconds later it returned to normal. So it grouped those, the alarm and the return to normal together. Here, where you don't see anything, the completion of the bracket, this guy is still in alarm. Okay. Below the view by type, we actually can see what categories. If you're looking for specifically HVAC critical alarms, you can select that and see only the critical alarms that have come into the system. So you can filter out all the general, all the fault detection, those type of alarms. Okay. Any questions so far? If you knew you had a problem on Saturday, you want to go look at the alarms for a specific date, you do have a calendar that you can pull up. So you can search by time and date.
Where is that located?
To the top right corner of that action pane.
Got it.
Up here in the very top left is an alarm count. So these are the alarms that are in the system from the area. The here is from the area you're at right now. So at first floor area A, we've got 8,900 alarms. 8,931 need to be acknowledged. 34 need to return to normal, and there are 8,400 roughly closed alarms. The total is the system total. So if we were happen to click up at Oklahoma Heart Hospital, those two should line up. Those numbers should all be identical. All right, so with alarms, we had several tabs that showed up. All of these, once we get it set up, configured the way you want, these are the actions and messages that we're sending with alarms, or how we're sending alarms out to you. So once this is configured, you probably won't have to adjust those. Something that I think we have a meeting scheduled to go through and look in detail at what alarms go out. Yep. Okay. All right, so let's go up to trends. All right, trends are graphical representation of points of data for you. So if it's a fan, the status on or off in a time window. If it's an outside air sensor or a discharge air sensor, you can see the values of that discharge air sensor. You can also create your own trends that you want to view. So if you want to look at the discharge air temperature of an air handler in relationship to the return temperature, you can put those 2 points on one trend. Okay. So here, when we clicked on it, we're at Oklahoma Heart Hospital. We're at the top of this tree. Clicked on the trends, and since there's no trend points to display, trends all live in control programs or in equipment. So if we go over here and go to Super West, pick one of those VAV boxes. Which one? Here's a trend that I created, and I created this one on every piece of equipment that has a thermistor. It's just the temperature in the space versus the set point. So you can see if I'm controlling to the set point. It's the piece of equipment controlling. So this is one I created with 3 points of data. Right click in that black space. And go to help. So the help menu in the trends show exactly how you can scroll through a trend, how you can increase and decrease the size of it, and what each one of the buttons do in the trend graph. So exit out of that, we'll kind of go through them. So hover over this point right here, and hit your space bar with it highlighted in. Now you can grab this and drag it up if you would like. Okay. So you can pull a couple of points of data. You can arrange this and then print this trend off if you're trying to denote some type of anomaly. Maybe we're wanting to see what happened in this period of time. So it gives you the date, the time, and what that value was at the time of that occurrence. Okay. So if you want to get rid of them, you can do one of two things. You can go back up and click View, or you can exit out of each one of those boxes. It resets the page. Okay. Another shortcut is Page Up and Page Down. I like to use Page Up. So right now I'm only looking at a 24-hour period. If I page up, it'll show me more data for a longer period of time. That keyboard do it? Yeah. Very good. Page down gets smaller period of time. Page up is a larger period of time. And you can drag left or right. If you want to enlarge just one area, you can do the magnifying glass and drag around a part of that trend and look at just a specific trend. Okay. And we've got a button up there that looks like a calendar. We can pick or select a date range if we needed to go back to a specific day. Again, that's like Saturday, we had a problem in the plant, we could go back and see what occurred. Let's see if this computer, the browser will do it. Click on the word zone temp. Okay. So you can turn parts of the trend on and off. Go ahead and go click on view again and bring us back to just a 24-hour view. Okay. Come down off view. There. Go click on the gear. So the gear is how we display the trend graph. We can do it black and white. We can show database values only. You can ask, what are database values only? The controller stores 24 hours worth of trends. That's all that's on board in a controller. So if you lose communication or something, that controller will continue to run. He will continue to do his job. He will even store trends, but he has a memories that's small enough that we can't store everything. So as soon as it regains communication, it'll push those trends back to the server. If we view the ones that are in the controller, there's probably about a half a day's worth of trends that haven't been stored to the server yet. So we can, if we're going to view that in the database only, then we're only going to see from 4 o'clock this morning until back into the future. There's another button there that says update on those settings, auto update. If you click that, you'll notice down here every once in a while it'll say loading data. So what it's doing is actively going and grabbing current information. Otherwise, these trends are static. They do not auto update. And then that checkbox that says display gaps in trend data. What that means is that for some reason my zone temperature was not reading, stopped reading here, and I didn't get it back until here. What it'll do is draw a straight line at an angle down to the next point. So it lets you see visually that there was a loss of communication or a gap in the trends for some reason. All right, any questions? logic. So this is actually an image of the logic program that I wrote for you. So all of this is just a picture, and overlaid on that picture are actual values from the controller, information that's coming from the controller. So this
Real
is,
quick, just out of
Yep.
curiosity, on my screen at the top,
Can you not see?
content differences detected, upload content.
What page are you on?
I'm on Fire Command Center, actually. I'm sorry. I'm on the ST-115, and then I'm on Logic.
Okay.
I'll go back to the graphics.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So you may see this, especially right now with commissioning and tab and everybody going through the system. What it means is that the controller has information different than what web controller, the server, has for it. So if you click on details, kind of pull that window out a little bit larger. It'll actually tell you what it sees as the difference. So this particular one, he's missing his download date. So that's probably one where the guys in the technician downloaded it locally, and the server hasn't gotten that information up to it yet. So if you exit out of that, in this case, we want to upload that information, and it'll resolve that. Sometimes you'll see another button as well. You'll see one that says resolve. Say okay. I'll have to look at that and see what's going on with it. Sometimes you'll have a button there that says resolve, and that means, resolve means that some of the information will be downloaded and some information will be uploaded. So the system's keeping track of what does the controller say that it has versus the server, and then the server is deciding which way to send that information. So that's a resolve. It goes both up and down. Downloading means I'm going to download information to a controller. Uploading means I'm going to upload it from. Okay. All right. Reports. Do the drop down on the reports. We have several reports that are built into the system, and then some that we have created specifically for your job. So we have, if you start at the top, alarms. We can do alarm actions. Alarm actions are things like sending emails and texts. Alarm sources, we can report alarm sources, alarms, alarm preferences and details. We've got all these reports that we can run. That's probably a topic for later. Commissioning, those are just equipment checkouts. At the end of the job, print out all of the notes that we've made in your system, as well as all of the commissioning points that have been changed with the test and balance. Okay. Equipment. Probably the one report that would be the best for you to run on a regular schedule is that locked value report. So if you want to run that once or twice a week on a schedule and see who and what is locked in your system. In other words, somebody overrode the cooling tower fans to 100%, they've locked them. You can get that information out of a locked value report. Network IOs and those things, those are network points are ones that communicate. A good example is this one. The outside air temperature is being brought to this controller across the network. A points list is a good one to run. Where I use it is if I'm going to replace this controller, I'll run a points list, print it out as a PDF so that when I put the new controller in, if I misconfigure something, I have the original information for it. Trend usage actually shows how many trends are stored in the database, how many are stored in the controller. Helps me manage the system more. Okay, that equipment summary. Those are ones that I created and wrote custom reports for you, and we're gonna go over those probably in a couple of weeks. Those are specific for your dashboard. That's energy information, and air handler, and VAV information. Okay, the schedule report, you probably won't care about. It is, since you're scheduled all the time, but that's just a built-in report to the system. Security. I run location audit logs when I'm trying to find out when and why something was locked. So it helps me see who changed something in the system. If that fan speed on that cooling tower was locked at 100%, you can run a location audit log right at that tower and see who performed that, who locked that at the 100%. So that you can find out why it was done that way. Okay. That's a custom report that was created and it gets stowed away into a category. The bottom three there, report manager, scheduled reports and legacy reports, that's how I create reports. And you guys are welcome to create your own reports. It's not terribly hard. It's a lot like an Excel spreadsheet. You're just telling the system where to get information from and display it on a graph, on an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. All right. Beside reports, we've got a reel. Looks like a DVR or a movie reel. That guy lets us play back. Go ahead and hit accept. And tell us it's loading. And go ahead and hit play. So by default, it came up at 8 hours. Still loading. So what it's doing is pulling all the trend data for this unit and showing it like a DVR movie. So you can go back and see the graphic run for the last 8 hours. It's still loading.
Nope. Just click it 10 times.
Yeah.
It does take a little bit of time to load. It's pulling a lot of trend information.
Click it harder, Joe. I got it. Just 10 or 11 times.
So we're seeing, I think, click on the calendar. Yeah. So we're seeing at 10-minute intervals over the last 8 hours. So every time that jumps, it's actually jumping 10 minutes. And it lets you watch this piece of equipment run for that last 8 hours. So it's just a troubleshooting tool to help you try and pinpoint where a problem occurred and then figure out what caused it. And to get out of that, you'll have to exit out of that little block in the top of the hip. All right, to the right of the movie reel is a print icon, so we can print a page. You need to display that information or record it. So it's going to print whatever page you're on, or on the graph on the logic. If you want to print the graphic, you can. Nice short programs. To the right of that is a shortcut. It's going to take us all the way back up to Oklahoma Heart Hospital right at the top for our alarms. So it's a shortcut to the system, top of the system in the alarms. To the right of that one is the help button. And that is context sensitive help. So go ahead and click on that. Since he was on an alarm page, when he clicked on that, it brought up information on alarms. How the alarm tables are laid out. It opened another window, so close the window for me. Nope, next one over. Yep. go to the ST101, go to Logic, and click on the set point microblock, the big blue microblock lambda. Okay, so you see that help button shows up here again. If you click on it, it's still going to take you to the help specific to the microblock. And you can read specifically how that guy operates, what it's doing, and what it's trying to control. That's your dead bands. Figure out how the VAV is going to react to a changing temperature in the space. Since we're here, we'll look at this on the left side. These are contents, so these are specific areas. Microblock reference is what we're looking at now. Those are all the types of microblocks in the system, the different families. There is also an index tab. And if you're feeling lucky, you can try and search for what you're looking for. The only problem with the search feature is you need to be pretty specific. It doesn't have a Google search function. Let me put it that way. So if you want to look for set point microblock, that's what you've got to type. And I would probably just type set point and hit go. Yeah. So colors and set points. See, it brought up everything where the word set point resides in the system. It is a pretty good help feature in context sensitive. Okay. All right, so leave that open for a second and scroll down just a little bit for me. Keep going, okay, right there. So this is our heating and cooling set point for 101. Go ahead and change that 70 for the heating to 71. Like I mentioned earlier, now we get the 3 buttons. So I've got accept, cancel, and apply. If I apply it, it's going to stay on this pop-up window. It's going to commit the change to the controller. If I accept it, it's going to close the window and commit the change. If we had canceled it, would just drop it back to 70. When you're changing set points, you can do this in 2 places. You can do it in Logic, or we could do it on the graphic. See how when he's down there over the color bars, gets a hand symbol? You can drag those temperatures around and make adjustments. I would not recommend doing that because you get it it's real easy to get it way out of whack. It's real easy to get colors overlapping each other. So when I make changes, I click on the green bar right here, this one, and I type in the changes I want to make. The demand are those other 3 bars. What demand is as the system decides if it needs to relax your set point, it goes to different demand levels. The first one, demand 1, relaxes 1 degree. Demand 2 relaxes 2 degrees. Demand 3 relaxes 4 degrees. I am using that in like your OR. So what we're doing is we have occupancy sensors to say is the space occupied or not, and I'm resetting set points whether there's motion or not. Okay, that's the only place in the hospital where we're using it is just in the OR. And part of that is also for airflow.
Cuts our room air changes in half.
Room changes, yep. Okay. The gray bar below that is unoccupied set points, which don't apply for you. So let's go back to the graphic. So you can make that same change right here. So The only bar that we see is the occupied bar. You click on it and you guys can edit those set points here.
You have to right click.
Nope, just left click. You not change it.
That's not giving me permission.
You're an administrator. Oh, yeah, click on the green bar and then click on that. Let you do that. Should be able to change it. And you're logged in as me? Okay. I will check and see why you're not able to do that.
Mine's not working
Okay. Alrighty.
Hang on a second, I just changed it, but it doesn't.
You changed it or?
Yeah.
Joe changed it.
I think I changed it while you were doing it.
You messing with me?
Sorry. Yeah, I think I did that.
Wizard of Oz?
Yeah. Pay no attention to
We're all on the same screen, on the same page.
that. That's right, we're all on the same piece of equipment.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to show you a shortcut. If you wanted to ask earlier about you want to change to CFM. Right now, I'd ask that you not, because we're going through commissioning and we've got to meet the specification. Hold down the control key and click on the airflow up there that says 346. So this is the whole airflow microblock. This is where everything is configured. So if you want to lock this guy at 100% open damper, you can lock him. You can lock him at a certain airflow and let the damper control. Okay. If you want to change the set points, so go ahead and cancel that. Go to details. We're on summary. Go to the details tab. There's all the airflow settings. So cooling max airflow. Occupied minimum. This one actually happens to have all the same airflow settings throughout. So if you change it here, so cooling max, if we set it up to 400 CFM, then that's going to be your new max airflow setting. If you're just wanting to override it, you can do it on that summary screen, and you can override the airflow to a set point. You can essentially lock it at a certain set point or lock the damper at a certain position.
And that's down on the bottom left, lock flow set point
Yep.
to XCFM.
Yes.
Got it.
You do it on both pages, both the summary and that details, but yeah. So we can lock flow set point or we can lock the damper in a position. So everything that you control click on is going to bring up essentially the pop-up window from the logic screen. Any questions? Click on ST102 for about 103. And go to details. Go ahead and tell it to upload and see what it says. Okay. So we talked about how to change the set point, physically change it. If we want to make this particular space 70 to 73, we can change it here. If you just want to adjust the set point, use that plus or minus 4 degrees, you can actually use, this is an interactive thermostat. So you can force the temperature up and down just like you're standing in front of the temperature or the thermistor. So click the up arrow. Here. Yep. Click it again. Keep going. Go all the way up to 4 degrees. Okay. So if we accept this, now our set point adjust will change from -1 to 412. Accept it. Set it back. So that's essentially the same thing as being right there in the space in front of the thermistor. You just took that dead band and slid it up 5 degrees total. So you move the effective heating and the effective cooling set point up to 76 and 79. So if you get a call and you don't want to change set points, you can adjust set points by doing that. All right, go ahead and run it back down to -1. So you have plus or minus 4 degrees of adjustment at your thermistors. I'm going to go over a couple more system features. Right click over the navigation tree and go to tree display options. If you notice on my tree, so I'm logged in as myself here, we have these little icons that are showing up. This represents that there are trends located at this level. This means there's schedules located here. You can display these tree icons for your user specifically. So they're helpful to me to know where trends are, where alarm actions, where schedules reside in a system. So if that's helpful to you, you can turn it on. The hover text I don't like so much. The hover text means if you hover over that little schedule thing up there, it says schedule. Or if you hover over the trend one, it'll say trend. Most of these you have to log out and log back in before they take effect.
How did you get here?
So right click,
Okay.
tree display options. Is that an option for you? Yep. So that should be for all users, have that ability to turn that on and off. Alarm actions is a really good one, so you know where alarm actions reside. When we're setting up those email and text messages to go out to you, at least you know where they're coming from in the system. Because it's best not to go through and do them at each piece of equipment. It's better to do them high so it catches all those alarm types when we filter them. But it does let you know where they're at. Up here where it says web control, there's an up arrow. If you click on that up arrow, you can hide this navigation tree. And then if you right click in the black space somewhere, you can select scale to fit. What it'll do is fill within the constraints of the graphic, it'll fill your screen. So it's if you're wanting to look at the plant's big graphic, you can roll up that tree and just show the whole plant in here. To get your tree back, you've got to go back and click that down arrow. So go to the plant. Better graphic to show that. Go to chill water system. And then roll that back. So it just fills the page with that. Throughout your system, where you see this little documentation, that's a drop down. It'll have your sequence of operation. They're all a little different, but most of them will have a sequence of operation, the technical instructions for your controller, and a cut sheet for your controller. one on the plant happens to have the drawings for the plant with all the labels called out. So let's go back up and look at one of the VAVs. So based on one of the 24 types of VAVs that are in here, you'll get a sequence of operation, the controller, points list, that's the sequence or the as-builts. Go back to your web control screen. And expand out controller TI. Yep. So these are technical instructions. We have specific questions about hardware. And then the other one is a cut sheet. One that says module, that's just a small one or two page cut sheet for that controller. Okay. Any questions about web control? About kind of the operating system?
This, is it customizable? If we don't have schedules, do we have to have the tab at the top?
Yep, that's one of the ones you're stuck with. That is one you're stuck with. There are some, I can't customize tabs other than, how do I say it? Tabs show up based on what's in the system. So if I write a program and it has no network points, then there's no network point tab.
Okay.
But I can't take out like alarm schedules, properties. Those things can't go away.
So Corey, probably a good stopping point for today.
Yep, I think it is.
I think so. I mean, general overview. I would say
One more thing.
Yes.
Since we're stopping here. One thing that is important, because we do have audit logs, make sure that you log out as a user. Now, the system should automatically log you out after 15 minutes of no activity. That's another one of those things you can set within my settings, but it's a good practice to log out of it.
As far as the toolbar and the trees and everything, we covered everything across the top except for that drop-down system menu that you just briefly touched on. So I see manual command, find, notes, about what to control, and then log out. So what does that get you?
You bet. You can see web control remembered that you had that set to scale to fit. So web control even remembers how we logged out. Okay. Some users may or may not have manual commands. Manual commands are system level commands. So I can see who's logged into the system. So they're just manual, oops, typed it wrong. These are kind of like your IT guys that come type a whole bunch of stuff in command prompt. But most of them are commands that I see to see what's going on at a system level. So not all users will have those. Find is a really handy tool. If somebody tells me that I need to look for blower coil unit 201, I can just start typing and jump directly to that piece of equipment. So it's real handy as you're learning your system, where things are at in the system.
I like that.
If I want, because I did break up the areas, so the whole first floor is broken up into 4 areas, I can't ever remember which VAV is in which area. But I can sure jump to it, 107. Notes. Notes are for you guys. So every page in web control can have notes. I can type, you can use it to do things like change set point or patient. When I click off of it, down in the bottom now, you'll see that there is a note for that.
And that's all, is that only gonna be found if you go to ST-107?
It'll only be found for that specific, that's the only place this will show up.
The notes?
The note itself will show
The
up.
post-it?
The post-it, yeah. Now, what I do need to give you is a link, because there's a whole nother web page. And I'll put a link to this web page. So here you can see exactly where notes are. And I can see who put the note in there.
Look at that. Brian busted.
Okay. And here's my note. So if I want to get rid of my note, I can delete it.
But only you can do that?
Anybody can do that.
Okay.
From this page. All right. So if we go back, it should have deleted it out. So that note disappears. And the note posted only shows up when there's a note specific to that piece of equipment.
And so then did it disappear from that the
It
list?
did, yeah.
Okay,
If I
once
go
you go
up there,
back into it,
Once I go
it'll
up here and
disappear.
refresh it, yeah.
Okay, and it just puts them there in sequential order, or does it put them in the tree order?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Okay.
I don't know. Never looked at it that close.
It seems like when Mitch comes in the afternoon, he needs to go to that notes page and see what the guys did during the day, right? What they've overridden and what they've done. It would be good if he could see them kind of sequentially. Or close them out, you know?
One thing nice about this, we type something in. I have some options up here. I can mark it as important. And if I unchecked mark as read. So this is what it looks like if I have not read the note. Does that make sense? So
Is it you or anyone?
anyone,
Okay.
anybody that hasn't read the note. So if you see it read and see how it's kind of flashing, once you read it, it will automatically mark it as read. And now you know that you've read all the new notes on that screen, if you marked it as important. Otherwise, it flashes at you.
Question is, does it mark it as read if anyone reads it?
Only marks it red for that.
For that user, okay. So
So
it'll
that kind of
tell
goes
you
back,
when
if
you
we
put
go
it.
over here and look, right here, marked as read by 3 users. So 3 people popped that open and looked at it.
Got it.
Doesn't tell you who, but it does tell you that they saw it. 3 people saw it. So I think those 2 are really handy. About web control is just kind of legit, every piece of software has this about information. And then log out.
Okay.
You guys probably won't have the setup tree. The setup tree is more server level configuration. I can do things like move this. I can move it down, and it will now be reflected in this tree over here at the very bottom. I just moved it from above North Domestic Water Tank down to the bottom.
Great.
Okay?
Now, if we can all remember this tomorrow morning,
Yeah.
we'll be in good shape.
It's a good transition. Okay, so to be respectful of your time here, right? I got just a couple minutes left, but the idea for this happening, like training session break, training session is for you to go play with this. Go through the stuff that we reviewed today, come back with any questions next time. The first item on every week's agenda from here moving forward is quick review of last week. What did we talk about, and what did you guys see messing with that stuff in the time that's passed, right? What questions did you run up against related to that stuff? Or what things are you wanting to know so that we can answer those questions that you need, right? Immediate needs are going to become important for you, so we want to be responsible and responsive to that as well. So I made a few notes of some things that I'll follow up on, and maybe I'll just send out a list of those things to save some time here. Any objections to continuing this every Tuesday and Thursday for now, unless we run into some scheduling conflicts? Should we just, for next Tuesday, same time? Is this the right time to catch both shifts?
Yep.
Okay, so 2:30 next Tuesday and Thursday we'll pencil in, and of course if things change we'll adjust. It's no big deal, but we'll keep it there. So Corey, real quick, next time we're going to go through, it's more kind of overview stuff and how the system operates for now. As you can see, there's a lot to talk about, right? And it's a robust system that's going to require a lot of discussion. But we're going to talk about working with equipment, right? So we'll go through each graphics page, we'll go through the properties, the logic, we'll get into some of that stuff more, right? Now you know where they are, we're going to talk about how to work with them next time, right? A little bit at a time, so you can kind of look at them and digest that stuff and come back with any questions that you might have. Set points, trend logs, alarms. We didn't, reports isn't on there, but that's probably one.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's next time or maybe down the road, how to set up reports, and we'll do some demo of that so that you know how to do that. And then you can start setting up reports and come back the next time with questions of what you ran into and if you didn't get what you needed. Anything else? Any final?
Is there anything out there right now that we need to ask Corey while he's here to get us through maybe a difficult issue that we're having with the patient room or something along those lines? I know the seclusion room is a hot button for me because it just seems wonky with the thermostat being outside. Measuring the return air temperature, it's not actual ambient. Yeah, you could argue that, but we'll go in, we need to go in with our little fluke meter and see what the actual ambient is versus what return air is and share that information.
Okay.
And maybe able to get in there tomorrow with that relocated.
Yeah, I'm thinking we're just gonna put the thermostat in the room. There's stuff everywhere. What's a thermostat? All right?
Perfectly okay with us.
Yeah.
We would just need to then reprogram that, right?
Right.
To not be running off the return air temp, but so that's doable. And just have it run like a normal room.
And then one other thing, the deadband plus or minus 4 degree adjustment at the thermistor. So for my knowledge, the effective cooling set point, we can go plus or minus 4 degrees from that.
No. It's
What can we go plus or minus 4 degrees from?
It's plus or minus 4 degrees of the set points, so. So it's plus or minus 4 degrees of this.
Heating 70, cooling
So we
73.
can go up to 74, 77, or down to 66, 69. So the whole thing moves. So we'll go, if I move it down minus 4 degrees, we would be 66, 69 for our set points. If I move it up to 0 again, we'll be a 70, 73. If I move it up 4 degrees, I'd be a 74, 77. So the whole band moves.
And then within what degree does it think that it's satisfied?
Plus or minus 2 or?
It thinks it's satisfied anytime it's between 70 and 73.
Between 70 and 73.
So I know it's a different way of looking at things instead of having one set point with a dead band on both sides. So if, some systems say, well, the set point's 70, but actually it's, in reality, the set point is 71 and 69. ALC has decided it's clearer if you take that away and just tell them what's the heat set point and what's the cool set point. So in other words, if I want to maintain a cooling set point at 73 and it's an IT room and I don't care about heating, I can make it 40. So your dead band there is 40 to 73. It's a 33 degree dead band, but it thinks it's okay. Does that make more sense?
So if I'm a patient and I want my room to be 70 degrees, based upon this system and this set point, if it's between 70 and 73, then that's all I'm going to get.
Need to tighten that band up.
If they're cold, then the way I look at it is you can tighten that band up. I don't recommend anything less than 2 degrees or you're going to get it going back and forth. But If they're cold, what you're doing is pushing the whole band up. So if it's right now in that space, it's 70 degrees, and they want to be warmer, you push that up 2 degrees and it's going to be 70, it's going to heat to 72. So they're going to warm up.
Well, what's confusing to me, and I'll just maybe jump on one of these patient rooms. Just real quick, Joe.
Yes, sir.
You're going to expand on training here. So like for instance, pull up 217 and look at the trend.
What do you mean?
10 versus set point trend. Now you see the green bars just going all over the place, all right? The yellow stays the same.
The yellow is the set point.
Right. So yellow's 76. We're riding around 74, and then we drip down to 73, and then 73.7, get all the way down to 72.9, and then it starts warming it back up. I mean, this is, in my mind, this is not okay from a patient's perspective, for patient satisfaction.
I'll have to dig into that one. I think
They all look the same, is what my point is.
My belief is that we have a 15-degree max heating allowance over the room temperature, and we're not maintaining. So if our air handler resets its temperature down, then we drop below our heating set point, because we're not allowed to open up that valve and let it heat. I think that's what's going on. I'll have to research. I'll look at this one.
So if you're that guy in that room,
Yeah.
and you've got
Yeah.
your set point at 76, and it's gonna give you a 74 reading, right? You're like, why can't I get the damn thing to 76? Is what I'm calling for.
Well, they aren't gonna see that 76. They know that they
That's
can
just plus
warm it up
4.
or cool it off.
Okay.
The patient doesn't see that I set it at 76.
Gotcha.
They just see the plus 4, minus 4,
They
and the
can see the
temperature in
plus
the
4 and the
room.
minus 4 and the temperature in the room. I'm cold or I'm hot, and they're pushing the temperature up or down.
Gotcha.
But I understand what you're saying. So I'll look into this.
Well, even on, like this, the set point's flat on this one.
Yeah.
But
so
you'll
it's
see,
just-
you'll see set points that go up, down, up, down, up, down over an 8-hour period, and the green line never changes. So this something's not computing there for me.
Or it changes in the opposite direction when they go up, that temperature's going, trending down.
Yeah. I'm hoping to get some more clarification on that, because I honestly can't speak to it because I don't know it. And then I feel like I'm inadequate if I can't speak to it.
Yeah, they should look like this. You should see it drop just below, go up. That's what they should look like. And I'll just have to see why some of those are not doing that.
Okay.
What I think's going on. And the only ones that are different, just since we're discussing it, one place you should expect to see something different. Your pharmacy, and your OR, you should expect to see it halfway in between your set points. We got so many air changes, especially in this one. I'm trying to get this space real stable.
Mm-hmm.
The temperature's the same, the exhaust terminals taking air out are exactly the same, bringing air in. We were having problems, the temperature would change, and exhaust terminals would go wild, and then supply terminals. So this space specifically, the pharmacy, if you really look at that trend, those are only a few tenths of a degree. Even though it looks like a sawtooth, it's not that ugly. I'll look through the system at some of those VAVs and see why I don't think they're heating, and see if I can't have it resolved by the time we get back next time.
Okay. Appreciate it. That's all I all I have, Joe.
Yeah, no, it's good. So, I mean, I heard that we should move that VAV piece to the beginning of next session, right?
Right.
Take a look at that. We should look at patient room VAVs first thing, right?
Yes.
We can come back and look at the rest of them, but you guys got patients in rooms, so we should show you how those are working and make sure they're working right. Cool, we'll do that. Okay, if you guys would take 2 minutes, check my boxes, let us know, right? We will literally use these and review these and look as we go and adjust, right? Again, 10 and 11 are the important ones. If you have specific things that you want to know about or that you didn't get a chance to ask, obviously you can bring them up next time, or you can email me or Corey, or you can put your name and email there and we'll get in touch with you.
Are you trying to trick us? You took away strongly disagree and put strongly agree on both sides.
Good man.
Way to pay attention.
I went straight to strongly disagree.
I think I shortened my my cell too much and didn't get rid of some
Does
this.
ES2 have support?
It's a Freudian slip. Sorry about that.
He's kind of cagey, guys. You gotta watch it.
Disagree on the other side.
It looks kind of like that graph of that VAV, right? It jumps way up here.
Hey, that's the way you should
That's what we're
have.
talking about.
Agree, neutral, agree, strongly.
Strongly agree, just
Yeah,
keep it above the board,
you're like,
right?
you're the best, and every time.
On your schedule too, there's
Great.
one, it says July the 30th, I think that's supposed to be June 30th on the back page.
Oh, yeah, cool. Okay, all right, anything other than my typos out there that I can help you guys with? I've already said one more time. You got it. Okay.
So are you sending that, their feedback, or are you sending it to Michael Halpin?
What's that?
Are you sending their feedback
Yeah.
to Michael Halpin?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, I won't be on it. You can leave them on the table.
Corey, can we still have my login on this?
I appreciate it.
We can just force you to log.
We'll see you Tuesday next week,
Relog.
same time.